call to order the Granada Community Services District Park Advisory Committee meeting for the 11th of September. Welcome, appreciate you being here. We have, first item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from our May 8th and June 12th
I think we're going to have to put it off. We haven't had a chance to read them.
Yeah, well, I have had a chance.
Can we have general public participation first, just ask if there's anybody who
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, roll call.
Yeah, we can do
Not a
that.
problem.
Gee, I'm ready to go. There we go. I'm Patrick Tierney. Why don't we go down here and introduce yourself?
I'm Nancy Marsh.
Paul Kelch.
Fran Pollard.
I'm Delia Camino, I'm GSD staff, and we are missing one person, Suzanne Cantwell.
So we have a plan. Right. This is an opportunity for the public. We at first here to talk about anything that's on your mind related to what we do that's not on the agenda. So if you see something that's on the agenda, you're more why don't we wait until we hear from you at that point. But if there's something that's not on the agenda, this is your opportunity to speak up. Okay, seeing no one coming forward, we're going to move on to the agenda action items. The May 8th meeting minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, or are we ready to approve the minutes as they are?
Just to let you know that I did go back and reviewed that item several times actually, and I think that I got it right this time. There were some minor corrections that needed to be made, and you can see that in the version I provided in the packet because it has the corrected. It shows what was corrected in there.
Right. I have no corrections. Does anybody else?
I mentioned to Delia, I think the wording says the same thing, and it was the move to approve, recommending to the board to pursue the legal investigation of a short term. It's on number 4.
Yes.
It reads as Marsh moved to approve a board recommendation to pursue legal investigation. So if we can agree that Marsh doesn't approve
Right.
board recommendations, it's a recommendation to the board. Yeah.
How about a recommendation to the board to pursue?
Correct.
That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So I would, for me,
Yeah, that is more clear.
accept with just that minor change.
Anyone else with any changes to May 8th?
Offhand.
Okay, hearing none, we need a motion to approve
Move to
the
approve.
change.
I move to approve.
Second.
Second. Okay, this is to change the wording on item number 4 in the minutes for May 8th. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's moving along then. All right, let's look at our June 8th meeting minutes. Are there any recommended changes? June 2nd.
We take a minute to read.
Sure. I've looked at this one. I think it's fine from my standpoint. June 12th.
I did my best to, hone in on the key points, and if there were any public members who spoke, I was sure to skip them in. I tried to cover, the conversation as best I could without putting in too much.
Too wordy. Anybody have any concerns? Needed changes?
sorry, everybody, we didn't get these before the meeting, so we're having to look, because new computer system wouldn't allow them to send them in minutes. Okay, yes.
Ready to approve?
I move to approve June minutes as written.
I'll second.
Do we have a second?
Paul, second.
We have a second? And any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes June 2nd, June 12th, excuse me, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay. We move on to item number 3, which is preliminary concept designs and replacement of benches and picnic tables for Balboa medians. This also includes designs for the recreation facilities on Balboa. So we're fortunate to have Steve from Cucci and Kenkel. And welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Why don't you go ahead and give everybody some quick background on what we asked you to do, and then we can jump into it.
Okay, well, we have had a series of discussions with the district and some of the park committee members about the design of the median 7 and 8 at Balboa and Columbus. And through those discussions, we came under agreement to help acquire a topographic survey of the property of those 2 median islands, as well as a complete survey of easements and road alignments and accurate aspects of that. And also, we've had numerous discussions with members of the different committees on the scope of work. We had seen Dale's initial design ideas as well. And we walked the site with some of the committee members as well as some of the district members, and conducted our own individual site reconnaissance. So what you'll be seeing are some initial concepts. They are definitely not final drawings. They're out there to raise ideas, stimulate questions. They're both more or less complete in nature, so if the intensity is too high, we can eliminate items. So it's very similar to other conceptual designs we did, for instance, for Burnham Strip. They're out there to raise discussion.
Yeah, I think that's the important point that we need to emphasize, that these are not final plans by any means. These are concepts, and these are subject to all kinds of public input and review.
Yes. So I do have a series of slides, and I think, Dale, you're going to have to move over as I...
Yes.
As I do that.
I'll turn off the light.
It's actually kind of one over by the door.
There you go.
And our purpose here is to review these concepts tonight and make a recommendation to the board, also to get public input on them if people would like to talk about them at this point. So that's our intent with this presentation.
Unfortunately, my remote isn't working, so I'll have to stand over here by the projector. So what we did initially was our site constraints and opportunities plan. This evaluates the existing conditions, which probably a lot of you are very familiar with, but I'll point out some of the key things that we noticed from our observations.
Before we get started, can I point out where these are? District map.
Yes.
We're talking about Balboa Avenue right here. And it's commonly referred to as median 8, but it's the circle that you can see up there. And then there are several island medians. 7 is another one in particular that we've been looking at.
Yes, and our scope of work, this includes medians 7 and 8. The other islands are not part of the discussion. Some of the interesting things that we discovered about these 2 medians is that there's actually quite a significant height change within the circle. This point of the circle is about the highest point of the circle, and around here is about the lowest point, topographically or height-wise. There's actually a 12-foot change in grade from this point down to here, which is a significant amount. It makes it a real issue of concern when we talk about accessibility, meeting disability, national disability access requirements. This area here is actually about 6 feet higher than this end of the median. So there is a significant change. This is more or less a high point between these 2 medians, and this slopes down at a much more gradual rate. As you can see, we've identified tree locations. These little brown dots here are all the existing trees. And as you can see, there is kind of an opening in the trees in this area, and kind of an opening in this area, but there are significant trees, and these tree diameters are drawn to scale. So you can see the largest trees, this is actually a stump, but a lot of the larger trees are kind of in this area here. These lighter green lines that you see out here, these actually represent the canopy of the trees. So it shows how much of a shadow or how much of a cast they present on the property. So you can see a vast majority of the property is covered by tree canopies. Of interest also is the northwesterly breezes come from this direction, from the ocean more or less. And from this area right here, there's actually a pretty nice, down Francisco, there's actually a pretty nice view of the harbor. I just drove up there now and drove by there, and the sun was setting and the harbor was visible. It's a beautiful sight. Some place that somebody would want to probably sit to enjoy that view. We show this little line here. This is actually where the Warren Trail is right now. There's actually a Warren Trail in this direction too. There's some overhead lines that run across here. These are not power lines. They're what we think are telephone lines or cable lines. These blue arrows represent vehicular circulation. So we have to accept the fact that there are vehicles that are going to be driving around this property. And then we've also identified key areas where we think pedestrian circulation is going to occur that may conflict with the vehicular circulation. It's not visible on here, but there are existing benches, tire swings, dog litter containers. So there is existing furniture out there now, and that's one of the discussions that we'll have later on today is about what character some of the new benches and picnic tables may take.
Can I say something? When you talked about the slope, is it just the natural slope that follows the road, or are there lumps? hills inside.
It's not a real even slope.
Yeah, I can see
We'll see
there.
some pictures. This is actually the clearing on the longer island here, but it is kind of a unique slope that we'll be able to see.
The tire swing is just to the left.
Yes, the tire swing, this is the existing bench. This is kind of the clearing that we're talking about. And here's Francisco over here. Here's that view down Francisco. You can actually see the harbor and actually the point, Pillar Point down there. I wanted to point out this area too. This is actually right across from the open area. Most of the homes that surround Balboa face towards these meeting islands. This is one of the few expanses just north of Francisco where there's fencing and the house isn't facing onto the street, which means that probably there'll be less conflict, less neighbor concern if there is activity in these areas. This is the circle. That's Nancy right over there. And this is kind of a wide perspective. You can see this area is flat, and then it slopes down, and then in this area it's a good 12 feet lower. This is over in the other, I guess you could call it the northwestern quadrant of the circle. This is another area where there is fencing and the house doesn't face directly onto the circle. There's only two areas where houses don't directly face onto these two medians. And you can see this is kind of the slope that you see. This is over on the eastern section of the circle, and you can see the significant slope that exists there. This is some of the existing furnishings, the tire swing. There's some old remaining metal bench and picnic table supports, and here's one of the older picnic tables. And of course the trash, the dog litter station. Our first concept kind of takes up a little bit on what Dale proposed, but elaborates on it. We had to make some significant adjustments due to the topography. And we also thought a lot about the placement of where items would be. On this concept, we locate the playgrounds over in this existing flat, pretty sparse area not covered by trees. So this is, once again, this is in concept, so the exact equipment, the exact size, the exact style is not clearly defined, but we have a concept here. The concept for this is to actually locate or to actually design one larger play area. It's for kids that are 7 on up to 12 or so. And then a smaller area that is for toddlers. They are separated. There's a concrete seat wall that runs in this direction. So they are separated, mostly so that parents can monitor the toddlers, make sure they don't wander over to the older kids area, get on equipment, injure themselves. And then over here, in this location here, is that picnic area that will be supportive of the playground, and it has a view down Francisco Avenue towards the harbor. All of this play area is fenced by a low fence, possibly only about 4 feet tall. It would be open in some way, either metal pickets or railing, depending on the character that you want to have. But that is mostly to contain the kids from running off into the streets, mostly as a security aspect. All of these entrance areas here would be modified so that they are accessible for American disability laws. So what we show in a lot of these concepts is seat walls, concrete seat walls, and also supported by what we call log rounds. These would be trees that are cut, stuck into the ground at different heights. They could develop a wall, or they could actually be part of the play area as well. We also are hopeful that these can be made out of some of the eucalyptus trees that we take down. Eucalyptus trees are very resistant to decay and rot. They could be cut down, cut into certain sections, set into concrete, and would probably last 30, 40 years possibly. So it's a good way of being sustainable, being conscious of using materials that are on this site, maintaining the character, having some of the character of the pre-existing environment there, and making use of materials that are on site already.
Steve, can you comment on how many, I'm just trying to look at the two maps, but how many trees are coming out in these two
I
designs?
think we're only taking out, I think they're actually on the plan and I can't see them.
There's just that one big one that the tire strip.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 trees possibly. I think there's actually only 1 tree over here
Yeah,
on this area here.
it's just it's this one and this one.
Yeah.
So just two.
We have them on the plan and they're kind of dashed.
That's amazing.
Oops. Oops, I'm sorry. Let me back up.
Oh, I see. So there's your little dash just of that tree.
Yeah.
And then there's one just over here. The circle looks like it would have more coming out.
Yeah, so the circle plays up the concept of having a half-court basketball court in this location. Once again, this is the property that has that long fence with no frontage on it, and this is the property that has that other fence with no frontage on it. So therefore, hopefully the impact of the noise that kids generate and the noise that a basketball court generates will be hopefully located in the area where it has least disturbance. On this concept, this area is developed into more of a passive picnic area. These are picnic benches. This is a stage, so we're taking advantage of the topographic difference in the area. So there's steps that lead up to a flat area here. It could be used as a stage. It could be used as an amphitheater. It could be used where kids can play on it. It's a good opportunity for having a showcase type area like that. And we also show a restroom facility here too, which was mentioned by some people, not everybody, but we think it's something that it's worth considering, and also something that can be phased in the future. Doesn't have to come in immediately. So as you can see, when you leave this property, you cross the street and you ride to this area, and we do have to go downstairs to get down to this main picnic area because this is just too steep in this area. So for disability access would actually wind all the way around and get down to here without any steps, and this would meet disability access in that regards. And then this also meet disability access. And the law states that you have to provide disability access when possible to each individual amenity or feature. So in this case, we're providing disability access to the picnic area. We're also providing disability access to the stage, as you can see right here. And there's access to the restroom and to the basketball courts. This basketball court would have to have a retaining wall around it, because that area is sloping, so we would have to bring in cut and fill to level this area out here. And we would also put a fence out here so the balls would not bounce into the street.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
The previous old benches were like cemented down. Is
Yes.
that usually what you use so that people don't have to come up and walk away with them?
Yeah, we should find a way to secure them. It depends on the type of bench that we pick, but either they're cemented down or they're bolted to some kind of foundation. And we are showing new benches. We're showing benches here, benches here. So we are still trying to give some opportunities for people to walk their dogs, stroll, and find bench seating. And as you can see, the pathway is a lot more serpentine than it used to be. The current one kind of runs pretty much through this area and down through here and across. But we are trying to get more of this natural flavor with serpentine pathways that kind of make you feel like you're more in a park environment.
Would you think in median 8 under that design that there would be any hindrance to people who are walking east-west?
East,
But
west,
I think that, through the
This
picnic
way?
tables? Yeah. No, I'm sorry, the other way.
this way?
Yeah.
Well, the picnic tables are a central area as far as a hindrance when activities are happening, or just from the picnic tables?
Without activities.
No, I don't think so. People would walk up here, walk around the table and back up here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or you could just put 2 on one side and 2 on the other.
could do that too, yeah.
That's been a comment that I've received from people
Uh-huh.
in the neighborhood, don't block our trail access.
Oh, okay.
There's actually a bench where the restroom is, I think, right now, so you could potentially eliminate the restroom with the benches or move them over where the one is now.
So in this concept, we have basically 2 picnic areas. A picnic area that relates more to the playground, a picnic area that relates more to this passive type of activity, with the exception of the basketball.
Just a process, we're going to look at both, so we see them both, and then we'll comment on, then we'll go around and
Yes,
comment.
yeah.
But if you have questions now, feel free to ask. Yeah.
So this one, just for trees, Steve, I think I see 1, 2,
Yeah.
3. Here, so the basketball court
Yes.
takes out more trees.
Yeah.
I imagine the existing trees would have to be thinned to,
Trimmed.
Yeah, trimmed,
Yeah.
They have to be
I
trimmed.
mean, they definitely need to be
Maintained.
cleaned up.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, once we take it over there, if we were to do this, then
Yeah, that,
the district would have to pay for maintaining those trees.
Any improved area, we have to maintain the trees.
yeah.
And we've avoided some of these heavier, denser treat areas.
Would you suggest leaving the green areas natural as they are now, or?
Well, I think that all depends on the outlook of the district. They could be planted with native plant material, but along with what happens with native plantings is you do have to get them established. So there is a 3 to 4 year watering period. They could just be left natural as they are now, where grasses grow on them, and there may be the need to maintain those grasses.
There's some beautiful sweet peas that grow up, the wild ones, have you seen them? They grow up by where the basketball court is, they're really pretty.
So we're looking for that kind of input, It does increase maintenance initially when you first plant. Long-term, once the plants get established, the maintenance is less because you're not weeding anymore.
Is there any particular advantage to having a restroom on 8 or 7?
I think Dale said there's water.
Yeah,
8.
yeah.
There is.
Water won't be a big expense. There is water
Sewer, I think sewer surrounds, I think there's a manhole right here, so there's an easy connection. Yeah.
So utility-wise, they can have it in hand somewhat.
Most likely, yeah. But not an enormous advantage. I think there is a sewer line that runs down Balboa that we could connect to as well.
Just a question in general, because I live real close to there, I spent quite a bit of time there. As far as crosswalks on curves, I mean, is that something that, in general, I mean, I guess the one thing is you don't want people parking on the inside, right? Or would they be parking on the inside? I just kind of,
Well, this is kind of a sticky subject. We are required to provide disability access where people park. I mean, there is no parking lot, so we're not providing access for parking. We're providing access for a pedestrian. If a pedestrian parks along in here, the access would be onto one of these curb cuts. But if somebody's walking, they have to cross the street, so we have to do a curb cut here and here.
yeah.
As you know, there is no, or you may not know, but there is no enforcement of accessibility laws. The only issue that comes up is like just recently somebody from out of the area sued a couple of businesses because they didn't have disability access. So that's the biggest risk you take, is somebody, not necessarily from out of the area, but anybody could file a claim because we didn't meet disability access.
But if there's enough room to park a car by the curbs, isn't it, where the houses are?
Yes, yes. Yeah, people park there now. I think people park on both sides of the street.
Do they park here as well as here?
And
You can.
on the Alameda, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can.
Hopefully it's neighborhood park and it's not going to be a lot of people driving it.
Right,
Right.
right.
I think that's a good point to make here. This is designed to be a neighborhood park playground, not a whole community playground, and certainly not a playground or facilities that would draw people from over the hill or anywhere else that was far away. It's designed, I would think, our concept anyway, was designed to serve children and families within a 3-block, 4-block radius.
It
Is
may,
that fair to say?
Yes.
it may reduce some of the traffic and crowding at Quarry Park, because right now, for the people who live on this end of El Granada, that's the closest playground. So you'd have more people walking rather than driving over to QP.
So you didn't see, Steve, a problem with having cars parked, along both sides of median 7, both sides of each one-way street?
Well,
If there was enough room, or did you see constraints to that?
well,
It's not a no parking now.
yeah, it's not and the times I've been there, I've seen cars parked here and cars parked here, never right across from each other, but I've seen cars parked on both sides. There's no curbs that are painted red. So as far as I know, I don't know if it is enforced or not.
I typically see cars parked on both sides of that side, where there's houses right across from it, so it's like the houses in the neighborhood. And here, I think because this is a fence
Right.
and not driveways, you see less cars parked on both sides there.
But we're on a street parking situation, we're not required to provide disability access. In other words, if a person were to park here, it would be their responsibility or their own challenge to reach access here. But I do think that providing crosswalks and curb cuts at these various locations will be critical and important. Should I move on to our
Yeah.
second concept?
Please do.
So this concept is quite different. Probably the first thing you notice is the full court basketball over on this median 7. We thought we'd throw that out there because if we move the entire playground to the circle, this area became less viable as far as activities. There could be a half court there as well, so just keep that in mind. We are still showing the picnic area right off Francisco Street. This court is fenced, so there would be a fence that runs along here, which might be a visual negative for people driving through the neighborhood to see a fence only about 8 feet off the curb. But we are providing a pathway around the entire basketball court, access to the court, benches in different locations. So this area becomes, I guess you could call it more of the active sports median.
How high a fence are you thinking?
Whatever we want to do. You know, typically you see fencing around a sport court, it's 12 feet tall, but I don't think you want it that tall. Probably 8 to 10 feet would be something that would,
I suppose on the ends where people are throwing at the basket, that's where it needs to be the tallest.
yeah. Yeah. So on this one, the circle becomes a lot more of an aggressive playground area. The older kids' play area is a lot larger. The toddler area is larger as well. There's a central picnic area, a convenient restroom area that actually has a stage fronting it, so the restroom wall acts as a backdrop for the stage. We've done some other interesting things with this too, trying to take advantage of the topography. In concept, we're showing, with this area being modified, this area is about 6 feet. This area right here is about 6 feet higher than the picnic area. So there are stairs that lead from this area down to here, and we're actually showing a slide that's built into the slope, so kids can run up the steps and go down the slide. We're also showing a structure of some sort, and it's undefined at this point, but this might be a structure where they climb up ladders or stairs to get to this height, which is about 6 feet higher than the play area here, walk across a bridge, walk across here, and then down the slide or down the steps. So there's kind of a nice, playful aspect to this. It takes advantage of more of the property. They're really not running around on this area here. It can remain preserved with the eucalyptus trees, but there is kind of a neat bridge effect that they would actually walk under on this pathway here. As with the other one, a lot of the walls, a lot of the seating, a lot of the play areas are made out of the eucalyptus rounds stacked up. And we are actually showing fencing around this play area and around the entire perimeter of the playground area, just to, once again, to keep kids from running out onto the street without supervision.
That would just be like the split, for instance, the split rail fencing, something 3 to 3.5 feet tall.
Right, it's something to slow down kids. You know, a kid can crawl through a split rail fence, but it'll slow them down by
Yeah.
half a minute maybe. Once again, just like the other one, we do have accessibility issues, so this would be our accessible path down to the main area. These are all at about the same level. This area, so if a child wanted to get up to the slide, they would actually have to walk this way, all the way up here, go down the slide, come back up and around like that.
Are you envisioning a gate on the toddler playground? You know, to keep dogs and big kids, you know, out, a sign to that effect, you know, there's no one under 8, you know, or no one over 8 or something like that.
Yeah, well, there should be a sign on these playgrounds, especially on the older kids' playgrounds that'll give the age of the kids that can play there. A lot of the separation between toddlers and the older kids is going to have to be by adult supervision, and that's why a lot of times we'll provide seating areas for adults in the middle so that they can monitor the kids. Some people may have a younger toddler and an older kid, so separating these, like for instance, putting the toddler area over on this side would be a bad choice, because if there's one parent, they can't supervise both kids. So having the seating areas central where they can monitor is the best method. And if there's a sign up that says, you know, this playground is for children 6 and older, and the adults read that, it puts that responsibility on them to make sure the kids are in the appropriate area.
I just noticed in San Francisco, a lot of toddler playgrounds have a gate. You know, it's easily open, but a gate.
We could do that with this too. We could put a gate here. Our thinking is that a lot of these climbing walls will keep them kind of contained, but we could add a gate in here too.
Again, Steve, this is the area where you're looking at somebody's side fence and not in the driveway, so this playground would be facing somebody's side fence.
Yes, yes,
Front yard.
yeah. And that's why on both concepts A and B, we had the high activity areas in this area and in this area where we felt they would have least impact on the neighbors.
I just thought of one thing missing that I think everyone likes and toddlers are swings.
Yes.
A swing set in each area.
Yes, yes. And these, we have, once again, these are just really rough ideas. They're not by any means the equipment. We're just showing the size. So at some point, it would be good to get input on play equipment. Kids love swings. The hardest part about swings is they take up so much area because of their,
I have a quick question.
Yes.
How feasible is it to have some kind of like a tree house in an existing, utilizing existing trees? Is that something that's commonly done or not?
Some trees I'd say would be acceptable, but with the eucalyptus trees, probably it's risky. Yeah. Eucalyptus trees are they have very brittle limbs and they fall.
What if you like cut the top of the tree and it was like a big tall stump?
Yeah.
Is that even possible? Is that right? Not.
Yeah. For a certain period of time, that tree, its root system will eventually rot out.
Yeah.
Then we have the fear of it falling over.
Especially eucalyptus trees, and they get fungus on the roots. They
Yeah.
die from the roots
Yeah.
rather than from the top.
Yeah.
Along the bridge and the little walkway, that's too.
Yeah, nature play has been some feedback we've gotten. And using the round stumps and, kind of a natural sloping slide. But we can get into that. I mean, there's lots of ways to do that.
Yeah. I have some images, photographs of what some of these items could look like, and these are just to stimulate your thoughts.
I remember seeing a comment, and I don't remember if it was a survey or where I saw it, but where somebody said if you have to take out trees, use them.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like all those little stumps. That's pretty cool.
Having landscape features that kids can climb is just, yeah, that looks really good.
Nancy, didn't you find a lot of people wanting to keep the naturalness of the area too?
Yeah.
I think that was.
And I think that was what Dale had on some of his original drawings, that people wanted to look like it blends in with the park.
And it might be worth mentioning too, that at the last board meeting on the 30th, the board authorized contacting the school district to do improvements to the ball field and possibly the basketball courts over there. So, the courts may not be as necessary on the medians.
Yeah, Dale had a half word on his drawing, but, well, we'll come around for comments.
I mean, I think just as far as basketball goes, I think it's good to have it because you have a picnic area there with, a park with basketball, I mean, as a school, and if school's in session, you're not gonna be able to go play.
That's quite a distance. That was one of the reasons we picked 8 was 7, because it's a part of Granada where there's nothing. There's no public parks, there's no public access, other than the medians, other than the streets.
Yeah.
Whereas Quarry Park is, along the Culver Way, and Granada School is even longer. And there's no direct access to Coral Reef Park.
So these images, this shows a slide. It's a stainless steel metal slide that they did out of concrete. Gate Park has a concrete slide that kids take cardboard and slide down. So it doesn't have to be shiny metal. The one thing with all of these, we could make structures out of some of the eucalyptus wood, bolt them together. The one thing that you have to be aware of is that wood, unlike metal, does rot over time. And I think years ago, it might have been 30 or 40 years ago, there was actually an accident here on the coast where I think a swing fell and killed a child. And that was actually a lawsuit that actually changed the whole playground manufacturing industry. After that accident, a lot of the playgrounds made steel and aluminum. So what they have now, what all playgrounds have now, is a public or a governmental playground. You have to be inspected by a certified playground inspector yearly, and you have to file a report. So that inspector goes by and checks the wood, checks the bolts, makes sure nothing's rusting. And that's something, that would be something that all of the districts.
I remember with Ocean View Park, it got replaced, but I know I think it failed an inspection, but then they weren't, since it was something that you just had to replace the whole playground. Now, would you be able to repair, like, sections of wood that were rotten, or do you have to?
Oh, yeah.
So you are able to actually repair wooden,
Yeah.
okay, and then re-inspect it?
For the big solid hunk of plastic, you'd have to just replace.
Yeah, no, but they had to take out the whole playground.
Yeah.
Ocean View Park got replaced because it no longer met the playground safety laws.
Oh, so the laws changed?
Yeah, keep getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah.
The laws now require the space between a picket, a railing can only be 4 inches.
Yeah.
I think it had a 6-inch spacing. And also the laws also require that if there's any platform that's over 6 feet high, it has to be totally enclosed, not only on the sides, but also on the roof. And Ocean View Park had a platform that was about 8 feet or higher, and it only had railings on it. So for them to retrofit that was going to be impossible. So it was better for them to just replace the entire structure.
So would we be able to make a bridge that went over a path, or would the bridge have to
It'd have
be
to be
a tunnel?
enclosed
Wow.
on the top too, unfortunately.
I don't know if it ever gets that hot here, but I hear that kids can get burned
Yes.
coming down those metal slides.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it never gets that hot. Or fortunately.
Fortunately, yeah, water slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should watch time, Pat.
So here's some more images. Apologize for some tree rounds, kids playing on the tree rounds. Great thing for outdoor playground. Another way that natural tree branches can be used, or just branches that are just bolted down. It's very boulders, and can be a very natural feeling. As you can see, all of these natural playgrounds have either bark chips or gravel or some other material. They don't have the pork in place rubber. It has that's something that you can contemplate. The negatives of gravel or hard chips, they have to be replenished on a regular basis. They get kicked around and moved, and need to be replenished.
That's what you guys did at Quarry Park.
And then just so you can see, these are manufactured clay structures that have more of the character of wood involved. So you can see that this is an option. These are actually modular, pre-designed clay structures. So it's something I wanted to throw out there so you can see
Does it
what they look like.
last longer than typical wood?
I would say no. These still have to be inspected yearly. I wouldn't say they last longer. They're probably engineered better. They're probably, in the long run, probably cheaper because they're a kit. They're all pre-manufactured and they're sent out in a truck and they're put together like community ones.
That's a little nicer looking, I think, more natural looking than the set that's at Clipper Ridge Park, which is just more plasticky.
Then we can talk about benches and tables. And what I've done here is I've just collected some different images of benches that indicators of preference. Here we're showing some pretty rustic benches and tables. It might be that in this case, there's not one set standard bench. It's throughout the whole park, the whole Burnham Park, or the medians. Possibly each one has its own character, or possibly they could be tried to replicate it in the same character. They all have different rustic feeling. This bench right here has no back, so that's something to think about. You do benches, you can have backs.
I like the
So we noticed that the picnic tables that are on the Balboa medians now, looks like the ends of them were built out of the old rails. Well, I just noticed in Quarry Park this weekend that there are 8 picnic tables there, and 5 of those 8 also have the ends built out of the rails. There must have just been somebody local who was making picnic tables out of old Ocean Trail Railroad rails somewhere, but they're in Quarry Park as well as down Balboa.
Yeah, so if you chose to do custom rustic benches, maybe there's a local resident who have her table.
The county actually came up with a mill.
Yeah. And then here are standard benches that you see more often. These are commercial benches manufactured. All of these are made out of what you call composite material. It's a recycled material of wood, fiber, and plastic. This one is actually wood. Some of these are metal framed. Some of these other ones are that same composite material that provides the frame. The advantages to composite wood is that if somebody damages one of these boards, it can be replaced. It's probably not subject to rot and wear as wood would be. So generally, these will probably last longer. And then I guess the other advantage is that you're taking a more sustainable approach using recycled materials. Chopping down a tree to build a river bench.
They can be easier to clean as well. If you
Yeah,
actually
the
wanted to sit on them and eat
maintenance-
off them. They're
Maintenance costs a lot less.
They have a coating on them, the plastic component of it makes it easier to wipe off, doesn't absorb the pollution. So that's our
her presentation. And you can go back to any slides that you want to revisit.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve. What I thought we'd do is go around and take comments from the committee members and then open up for questions from the public. So does anybody have any comments? Anybody on the committee have any comments about concept A, concept B, or anything related to that? Tables?
I can start, I guess. I really like the playgrounds in concept B. I think if we do ultimately put in a bathroom, I like having the playgrounds and bathroom. You asked the question, did you also put a bathroom on 7? I like the bathroom and playgrounds all together. I guess I like how cozy this feels, even if we did just 8 and didn't do anything on 7. I think we'd achieve a lot for that side of the neighborhood, just having those little playgrounds. And as I looked at on concept B, I'm not a fan of the basketball court because of the fence around it. And if anything, maybe maybe a half court. But as I saw the trail design, I thought that would be a nice place for a park horse, to go around and work around that on with the fitness stations. So my preference of the two would be something like B, but without the basketball court, which I think that does look unnatural to me because of the requirement for the fence around it. And I'm cognizant, as Delia mentioned, at the August 30th meeting, one of the notes I captured, I didn't bring them with me, was there was a fair amount of positive feeling about a basketball court in Burnham Park, and the board set that aside because it would be quite expensive to put down all the hardscaping, and the fencing around it wouldn't blend in with the natural look of the environment. So having seen what it looks like, I'm kind of with them on that. I think you could hide it better in Burnham Park than out on a meeting where it takes a lot of space. So that's me. I would love to go forward and take something for public comment if it were me. I really like the circle in B.
Yeah, I think either one of these can stand on its own or be parts of it. The basketball court is really one of the only active recreation elements that adults could use also. We're focusing on kids' benefits, and that's a median 8, although it's fairly intense use of that area. There's a lot there in either one of them. And I like the idea of a restroom as long as it's not a stinky one. Neighbors don't like that.
With plumbing, right?
And they're fairly close here, so we wouldn't have a lot of spacing to diffuse some of the odors. So that would have to be a maintenance concern.
It could be like the one in Ford Park.
It doesn't bother you?
No,
Okay.
it's fine.
It must be a deep enough pit, but yeah, that's just a pit toilet. Same with the ones at Miramar that now have the house right next to them.
The toilets were there first, the house came second.
Yeah.
It's different. I'm looking at concept A, and this, if we just did 7 only, that would be a pretty passive, low visual impact playground. You wouldn't have the basketball courts, and in theory, you could put a restroom over there, I guess. But that's the least, looking at 7, that's the least impact on the neighborhood. Too low, we're talking about split rail fencing, to 3 feet high. We're talking about play structures that may only be 6 or 8 feet high, right? Something like that. and picnic tables. So I think, my personal opinion is this is you've done a good job at elaborating on key concepts and possibilities, and that we should just put it out there. One of the things that, for public comment, the stage, what was your thinking about the stage in concept A? See, what would be going on there, knowing that there's neighbors all around, and what would theoretically be on a stage like that?
Well, we've actually found that we've done stages on a number of parks, and kids actually like stages because it's like a pretend make-believe thing where they get up on a stage and they act out. Also, the steps act as seating areas as well. I guess there probably won't ever be any concerts or any events like that or anything like that. We were thinking about small stages. It's a separate area. It's made like running up and down to a higher elevation. Okay.
It's not really performance, it's meant kids to use.
I can see it being a Tai Chi area for adults, that's an example. Also.
To do yoga classes.
Can I make a suggestion? I'm not sure if you want to consider maybe making a recommendation to the board on what changes possibly they could make to the concept designs, or where, you want to go from here.
Yes, I
Yes,
just
we
have a
have a
thought.
public comment.
Barbara Dye, member of the board. It seems as if the next step might be to go out for some public input, because rather than having it get decided here or at the board, with even step one of Burnham Park, we had the public input, which is helpful for the discussion. And maybe you want to think about whether you want to take both plans as they're done and have some kind of public meeting on the site or whatever. I would think in terms of taking it out there and getting the feedback from the people directly around before you take it to the board, or even start to saying, I want this, I want that. I mean, whatever you want to do, but I really want the Parks Committee to lead this, but I think the next step might be public input.
That was actually going to be my question for the board members that are here. I think I assumed we would go for a more robust public input, maybe like we did with Burnham Park. My question was, do we need to go to the board to say, are you okay for us to go for public input, or do we just go?
Just from my point of view, maybe you want to speak to this. A lot of these concepts have been, the board has seen them, because the things that are on here are all the things that came out of the Parks Committee from a year ago, and even, the first Parks Committee. So I don't think any of these are new concepts where the board's going to go, oh, no. These are things that have been sort of looked at. So I think if you got public input, it would be fine. David, you want to speak to that, or you?
Yeah, no, I think I'm all for public input. I think it's definitely the next step. I think we definitely have to be careful of how we roll this out, because it is going to be extra sensitive in terms of people seeing something and, not realizing that we're still in the brainstorming stages, and especially if people live right across from there. I think there's going to be some strong emotional feelings as far as people that live right across the street and seeing certain structures that are going up, and just being sensitive in terms of how we roll that out, that we're, like always, there's nothing official. So I think, however we do that, we just have to be extra sensitive. I think other than that, I think I still go back to kind of your comment in terms of the park course, or, kind of tying that into kind of all the meetings. I feel like, it'd be, we obviously have to focus on somewhere, and 7 and 8, I think, is the perfect place. Kind of looking at a bigger picture, how could we have something where, whether each median, all the way through has a different kind of exercise activity, or something where you could see, literally going, starting at one end of Granada, and as you walk to each median, little signage or whatever that would say, hey, do 20 squat jumps, and then you go to the next median and there's another little activity set, and literally you get your full, your full workout just going through all the medians, and each one kind of having, kind of a different, something small. I think same thing, even some of the smaller ones that can't really do anything for recreation, that's where the community gardens or some of the other things that I think, some of the smaller things, and that's where, I think this is kind of the bigger picture, high investment areas. But I kind of have strong feelings for some of the kind of the low hanging fruit in terms of, things that would be lower costs and, kind of lower barriers to entry. Another thing I think that I don't know who mentioned it, but something like a pitching mound on one side and a softball mound on the other side with a natural backstop. So I think it might be tough, another idea, but I really like the idea. Like PAC Park has a little t-ball area, something that can be utilized like that. Older kids can maybe play wiffle ball in it, and then the mounds on the side. But yeah, no, in the public input, I think definitely that's our next step. We just have to be extra sensitive in terms of how we roll that out. And maybe part of that too is approaching those neighbors right in that area and kind of having that one-on-one communication with them.
We could do something similar to like we did on
Yeah.
Burnham and put the tents out on these medians.
Yeah, totally.
And attract the attention of the local folks. I think actually the fitness course, it enables us to get a toe in the water with a few stations and see how well they're used and how popular they are. And Pat, to your point, that gives some adult recreation opportunity there as well.
Just a little history about the basketball court. So at one of our meetings, it was a neighbor that lives actually right here between Balboa and Columbus that came in, and he actually had video of his kids saying that they wanted a basketball court there.
They actually,
So,
this house right here,
yeah.
this one's sitting in the street.
Yeah, exactly. So they, and I think it's important to at least move forward with it for the public outreach, to have, to represent, age groups for like the teenagers up through adults, especially if you're gonna go through the trouble of doing all this. I mean, if you're just trying to please little kids and picnickers, you can definitely get away with a lot less. You could just lay some logs down and, some picnic benches. But I do like the idea of a bathroom for a park. I think that's very responsible. And I think the designs are really, really impressive. It was definitely, I'm kind of in awe. I didn't expect this. And I live right here on Francisco, on that block. And we spend quite a bit of time up there. I think also, I think my inclination now is I'd probably prefer Plan B more so, just because I think it has more to offer the public. Maybe, that, that's why I think it's important to move forward for public outreach and see what people say.
Could I just make one comment? Prior to Patricia Henkel coming in, there was the Gates thing with the county, and the Gates proposal was included their involvement in organizing some of the public outreach, and I don't know, to what extent Patricia Henkel might be able to provide that service, if possibly that could be a recommendation to the board to have a more, experienced, organized means of going out there and getting it out to the public. So maybe that's an avenue to think of. I think regardless of what comes out of tonight's meeting, it would have to go before the board just to approve the outreach, how it's going to happen, who's going to do it, etc. Maybe committees getting together again and putting some ideas together and then going before the board.
I would really look for your feedback on to what extent you want the public outreach to go, because I think, like we mentioned before on the Burnham script, we were involved in some of the initial outreach for the Half Moon Bay Library, which took it to the 110th degree. So somewhere in between there, if you feel that what we did on Vernon Strip was adequate, then that's something that can be pursued.
I think there's a
But we
lot of
could take it a
people
lot
that
further.
haven't been reached.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you on that, Delia, but when I think about the Quarry Park meetings, the one that had the very most people and being socialized on social media and across the county had about 100 people. And at our Burnham, we had 70 people who wrote comments. We had more than 70 people, but 70 who wrote comments. And I think we got some pretty robust feedback, and I think we have to go through another couple cycles. But other than, I used to do some facilitation for a living, so other than watching some of the techniques they use for facilitating the conversation and, getting some of the group work going, I wouldn't pay them a lot of money to do what they did, because I don't think they got an order of magnitude more than what we got at Burnham.
And I would say we're almost there in terms of that right there. I think if we blew that up, and then I think the next thing is just cutting up somewhat to scale. Like at the Quarry Park meeting where they literally cut out a little fake dog park thing and tennis courts, and then they let each team kind of build their own park. And I feel like that it was a good experience in terms of, kind of letting the community drive that process.
The elements.
To your point, I think the hard work's already been done. I think the next step is just putting some things to scale so that it's somewhat realistic in terms of the layout.
Well, K&K has, used the constraints to design things how they would go, and so it's a little difficult to say to people, move things around, because there's a lot of constraints on
see the
those properties
constraints.
of where things could be moved. And I also want to make it clear that the earlier Parks Committee did quite a bit of outreach. I know Dale talked to everybody in the neighborhood. So we are not coming into this proposal. I don't think the Parks Committee is coming into this proposal from nothing. You're coming in with a lot of background. Personally, I don't think it needs to come to the board. If you wanted to do a similar Burnham Park thing, that seems to me within the scale of, we did it as volunteers pretty much, the Burnham Park one. I'll help. And this is up to you. I'm not saying you have to do this at all. I'm just saying that I think if we got some public input, that would make a better presentation to the board to say, here are the two. You need to decide if you want the two existing designs to go out there for public input and do the same thing we kept saying in Burnham. These are not pick one or the other. So in this case, it is a little more of pick one or the other, pick parts of one or the other. And then what do you think? So that you could take that and you could make your recommendation and it would go to the board with all that behind it. I don't think we need to, second guess the process right now. I feel like you're on a good process, you're on a roll. We should let you do it.
Yeah.
That's what you're
This
for.
could be a do or not do. Actually, that's what we asked at Burnham, was name the amenities you would want to do and the ones you would want to not do.
Right.
I agree, we shouldn't be asking the public to design a park.
I would agree
In
with
my
taking
personal,
both of them.
no, they can comment on these and suggest alternatives and all kinds of things, but we've got to come with something for them to comment on. If the board is okay with us, moving forward with a public meeting, I think, I agree, I think we have what we need. I would say we want just a little bit of time with Steve's outfit to help organize what has worked really well in this kind of situation in the past. We know that the Burnham was one idea, but I'm looking at maybe some just thoughts and ideas on what would be the ideal, now that we have something like this, what would be the ideal way to set something up like this. And I would think that we'd want to do it before the rainy season starts, that we would want to do it October or early November at the very latest, in order to have an outside event. You can't afford to have a rain out. So,
With Burnham, we only gave 10 days notice, and we put it on all the social medias we had, and we put it up in the post office. But with more time, and with a newsletter coming up, the e-newsletter, we could do more socialization and hopefully bring more people out than even what we got at Burnham.
I canvassed maybe around, I have a friend that lives right on the circle there, up there. He doesn't know. So, but he wants to know, but he, you know, doesn't know.
And again, we could reach, I think outreach to all the neighbors, immediate neighbors within a block of any of these areas would be appropriate and well-received.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for Steve. Does your scope of work encompass, you know, some other renditions of these designs or not, or would you have to?
Our scope, our contract limits are one refinement
Okay.
and then
Just
one more
one.
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on Vernon Strip.
Okay.
So I wouldn't
Vernon
refine
Strip,
these.
We built in an optional additional services for her,
Yeah.
so, hey,
I just wanted to.
I'd be happy, you know, with the same big posters like we had for Burnham to take the two designs
Right.
and hold off on the next iteration until we get more people.
Yes, we've just about, you know, I've about asked,
I
you haven't
like,
had any feedback?
I like Plan B also best. And I think I agree, maybe if people in that area really want a basketball court there, then I think the half court. And you could put, have you seen the community garden over at Quarry Park where the fencing is that net fencing?
Oh.
Would that work for that? And it almost disappears. You don't really notice it after a while.
This needs to be replaced eventually.
Yeah.
All the-
It's been there for years. It's doing well.
It doesn't have balls bouncing off.
Huh?
It doesn't have balls bouncing off.
And the ground, is that, could it be decomposed granite, or it's not cement, is it, or anything?
No, it can't be.
It says gravel.
Gravel?
Define-
Yeah.
Totally define that.
Well, it says
Not for gravel.
component, natural play component.
Could be mulch, could
At
be
the
gravel.
basketball court, does it have
Oh,
to be
the
something
basketball
harder?
court would have to be some kind of harder surface.
So maybe half a court or something, I don't know, but that, yeah, I agree. We should, I think, hold an event on the circle. And maybe the end of this month or the beginning of next month.
Owen, do you have any comments on?
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to see it, like, to some sort of scale, since we've talked about it a fair bit. I think if we take it there, if something happened, it's really important to take advantage of that elevation drop. You know, because for instance, like this basketball hoop on A, if it has a fence around it, and there's that kind of drop, like, people across the way who can see it, it kind of disappears with the fall. So I think kind of condensing and using that space as best we can, it's a great natural feature. I was kind of curious about the scope of work and the costs and what lies there, so I guess I would just be curious, would we be authorized to use that revision and take it to the board? Would the board be okay with, I
What
guess?
revision is that?
The one that we're offered. We're allowed one more revision on this, right?
Which we could do before or after.
We
Well,
have one
I would
revision.
think like after.
After,
the vote,
yeah.
Yeah, after
Are they
public
okay with
input, I
us
would
using that?
suggest that we would have that revision after public input.
So I think that's like it's a great product to take to them,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean we can worry about the bottom line is people have asked for parks and rec.
Yeah, that's,
We can worry
That's where
about
it started.
people being up in arms, but some people might be really stoked. It might be well received, you know.
Mhm.
So I think we got to get it out there to public comment.
okay, thank you. Gail Erickson.
Thank you very much. I live on Francisco Street, and I really, really do think you want to have more public input on this. I know a lot of people near where I live know nothing about this. And I think also it's really important to realize, too, what people are currently using that area for. In other words, there are a lot of people who walk their dogs along through there, and a lot of people who go walking, there's their morning walk, and that sort of thing. So I think it's important, there's a lot of people see it as more like a passive park, some parts. Not the circular area. Most people refer to it as the circular area, because that's being used currently now for picnicking and kids are playing there. But the other area, it is more of a passive park right now. So I think that would be something that you'd like to get input from people who live right near there and who currently use that area. So I think more input you get, the better. And also, remember that it's not, the people you talk to, I don't know what the first time you went around was, they're not the same people there now. That's changing. So the people who filled out forms 2 or 3 years ago, they're not the same people. And I live right there, and I can tell you, just on my block alone, how many people have changed. Or people who used to have children are still there, but their children aren't there anymore. So I think that's the type of input you need to get right now. I really recommend that you do that.
Thank you. Yes, please introduce yourself.
Thanks. Tim West, I live in the neighborhood. Thought I'd speak on this. I thought I'd come in here talking about we need more stuff. You know, like, oh, it's just a picnic table and a bench, but this is impressive. I'm really stoked to see what you guys are doing. Regarding this, I was going to say the eucalyptus trees, an arborist would probably be a good idea to get a hold of, because certain trees are at the end of their life. And I was the victim of a branch that fell on my car and completely totaled it. So,
Wow.
10 years ago when I lived on
Alameda.
Alameda, yeah.
By the median that doesn't have any trees on it anymore.
It's yeah, thank God.
I think an arborist would be a part of the planning process.
Yeah. What was the other thing? The restroom up there, I heard you guys say it's a park for a community that's in the vicinity. Well, if it's meant for a community, you know, in the area, why can't they use their own restrooms? If you're you put a restroom out, and I'm not opposed to a restroom, but it seems like it would be more beneficial down towards where people gather, you know, like down at the Burnham Strip, where people surf and whatever else you guys got going on there. That's just my observation. Also, the RV problem's been pretty bad lately, and it's going to get worse because the prices of houses are not going down. I think that the RVs are going to start figuring out, oh, there's a bathroom there. I'm going to park in the street here. Just, you know, that round one that parks over here, you know, really respectful guy on that one. But that's kind of something that I'm sure the neighbors would not be stoked on, to see somebody continually using the same bathroom if it's a neighborhood park. The other thing I wrote in my notes is to knock on doors, like you were saying. Great idea. Andrew Dorn lives his family lives right on the edge of that circle, and Jason Freeworth right on the other edge. They don't know this meeting's happening, and I know they would want to be here. So input, great idea. I would get a professional letter that you guys, you know, it's an option, but an envelope, and put it either in the post office box or at their front doorstep of the immediate vicinity. Yeah, just an idea. And that's pretty much it on this agenda. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
That was Andrew that requested the basketball court.
There you go.
But that was a couple years ago, so. Yeah, I mean, I do think that our group, our responsibility is to solicit as much public input as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, you know, that's what I feel, you know, our responsibility is to do that. And I think it's been tough because we haven't had something like this to take around. Now we really have something to show people. I think that will actually get a lot of interest.
I think we could definitely put flyers for houses, you know, on the streets all around. And, yeah, and just to make sure that we have much more time now than we had with Burnham to really publicize a date and a time, or maybe one or more, you know, more than one date and time to get good input.
Okay, here's what I'd like to do. I think we've had great discussion here.
I knew that was going to be something.
But we need to come to some decision closure on this particular issue. What I'd like to suggest is, I've heard nothing but positive feedback from the board and in general from the public here, that we should move forward with these designs in some sort of a public meeting, public outreach event on the medians in the next month and a half. So, you know, we could make a motion to that effect.
Do we want to, I would volunteer to help organize. Barbara volunteered. I volunteer Paul.
Yeah,
You-
yeah,
You twist
I'll
all
be
the
there.
arms, I know you.
I'll help, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so,
September and October. Should we pick a
well,
weekend?
let's do it one at a time. So, a motion could be something like, the concepts A and B are enough to get started with for a public meeting, and we should proceed towards holding a public meeting to get comments.
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
I move that we move to that next step of public outreach using the concepts as designed, A and B, as concepts to test the amenities and get public feedback before we take the next step.
Let's just keep it real simple. So,
Let's move forward with concepts A and B for public outreach.
thank you. That's perfect. Perfect. Any discussion or a second on that?
I second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? The only thing I would add is we'll make another motion about dates and specifics to the public meeting, but this would just be addressing that this is satisfactory for the initial stages. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Let's work on a little bit of when and how. Steve, you can blow these up, right? To
Yes.
where they're larger,
There's,
somewhere on that
I'll
scale.
leave
Yeah.
those.
Right, we would need that for each one of those, maybe 2 sets, in case one gets wet or whatever. And we could set a time frame, and Steve, I'm not sure how, it looks like we're going to do something similar to what we did with Burnham Park, that event. But we have a more discrete audience, direct audience that we can find. Plus, we can put up some moderate signs announcing it, a date and time. But do we want to have a date enclosed with this motion?
I would prefer not September. I
It's too
would say that we
soon.
have, a good month. So I would aim for maybe mid-October. I'm just like when the next board meeting is on the 18th.
Yeah, something like the 12th of October, which is a Friday, or the 13th.
Oh, that's a pumpkin festival.
Pumpkin
Yeah.
festival, that's why it's blank.
We should
Okay.
wait till after that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
forget
the
about it.
maybe the 20th.
These out for another day.
I guess
So-
everybody
Go
would
away
be
the
home.
whole,
The
Gotta be gone the whole
20th,
weekend.
I can't do anything on the weekend of the 6th, totally committed, but the weekend of the 20th, Saturday the 20th is a possibility.
Wait a minute, are you sure it's the 13th is the Pumpkin Festival? Because it's usually the third weekend, isn't it?
Pumpkin Run is the
13th
14th.
and 14th.
I mean, I'm registered for Pumpkin Run this
Okay,
14th.
13th and 14th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, the 20th, yeah, I think the 20th.
Saturday, 20th of October, and time frame would be in the morning.
We were burned from 9 to 1, and we sort of had to shoo some people out at 1 o'clock, but,
Yeah, we don't need to be there all day.
yeah, I would say 4 hours in the morning on the October 20th.
Maybe you don't even have to be there.
October 20th, 9 to noon, let's say, and then we can
Yeah.
carry on until 1 if we need to. 9 to noon, October 20th, Saturday, would be the public outreach event to collect information and comments, concerns, suggestions for the concepts or
Yeah,
any
that's it.
playground.
On median 7, because that's where we have that nice open area.
Yeah,
Median
the
7.
median 7 is the best, I think the best. All right, so I'll throw out the motion that the PAC organize and staff with community assistance and public outreach meeting, Saturday, October 20th, 9 to noon, on median 7, to get public feedback on concepts A and B.
Well, let's do it like we did Burnham, on park amenities.
Park amenities, including designs A and B.
Yeah, we don't want people to vote on A or B, we want them to
That's
comment
true.
on the elements of A or B, but using A and B as concept designs.
Well, at Burnham, you still had the concepts, right?
Yeah, we just didn't want them to choose, even though some did.
Yeah.
We wanted them to comment on, I want these things in it, I don't want those things in it.
The elements and their affiliations.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me try again. So I'm making a motion that we hold a public outreach event on October 20th, 9 to noon, median 7, on elements and locations of amenities, recreation amenities, or a playground at median 7 and 8. Is that concise enough? Make sense?
Or it was not 8.
7 and 8. Yeah, so we're looking at both 7 and 8 for sure.
Yeah, I just meant we would set up our tent on 7 because there's a nice big space there.
Yeah, the event, the public event space would be 7 because we don't have to weed through trees and.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. Further discussion. Can all of you make it? Can you look at your schedules and say, I'll be there? We're gonna hook you in.
Have to check my calendar. Oh my God.
Excuse me,
Okay.
for time's sake, could there be a committee, behind the scenes to organize it and contact the committee?
And we can appoint a subcommittee after this motion. Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay, and this is a recommendation to the board. All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. So we've got a recommendation going to the board, and the next board meeting will be what date, David?
September 20th.
20th, Thursday. So we will have feedback from the board by that time to make it official.
Wait.
Yes?
I thought we weren't going to go to the board, we were going to go straight to the
Well,
plan of the event.
I think we're planning the event, but I think, they need to concur, right? Hard to
Barbara
say.
said- I thought
Okay.
Barbara said they don't.
Just
All right,
do
so
it.
we are just strictly going in an outreach public input mode here, and that's all we're doing?
The board knows you're working on this, it knows the direction you're taking. I think you need to bring it to the board once you get public input, but I think that's going to make the discussion at the board level much more
richer.
productive. You bring it to us just based on the essentially redoing the presentation from tonight. The board just sort of like second guesses what you're saying, and you're the parks committee, we want you to have your recommendation, you do the input, then you talk about it, and then bring it to the board, and the board may have some changes, but the next step is not the final step. There's going to be, when public input is done, and you guys think about it, and you make a recommendation, then there'll be another iteration, and then there'll be more public input. So, I mean, just
Okay.
put it tabled out to make sure that we do what the community wants.
Okay.
But, I mean, the board has a lot on their agenda.
Plenty to do.
I defer this to you.
Could I suggest that you amend the motion to have the committee approve going forward with organization and planning public outreach on median 7 for median 7 and 8?
And we have one at a date, right? So
If you want to set the date.
I think we might as well have the date so it's out there and everybody's.
What are you asking? Well, I'm just saying because the original motion he just made was intended to make a recommendation to the board and instead just amend it to be
Okay.
approved forward.
So, I would recommend amending the motion where the PAC will start planning and operate a public event on October 20th, 9 to noon, on median 7, concerning the location and elements of playground amenities.
You know, Patrick, the only thing is I can't 100% say I'm available that day without talking to
Sure.
my wife.
Understood.
I can't get hold of her right now, so.
No, that's fine.
But,
That's fine. It's at least clear.
yeah. It should be fine. I'm not aware of anything, but there might be some.
Should we pick a second date just in case? Should we pick a second date just in case this one?
I mean, just for.
Or does it matter if
21st?
everybody's there?
That's a
Let's
Sunday.
say rain date the 21st.
Yeah.
Sunday
Yeah.
mornings are
Yeah,
okay.
Sunday
Or
morning.
the following Saturday, whatever.
I can't do it then.
I mean, probably whatever, yeah, I don't think there's anything that, you know.
Could
All
we
right,
coordinate it through
so
So,
either
we-
Saturday or Sunday.
We have an amendment, and any,
I'll second it.
second on the
Yeah.
amendment?
I'm sorry, what was the motion then?
The motion was for the PAC to start developing and implement a public outreach event on October 20th, 9 to noon, on the elements and location of amenities for playgrounds at medians 8 and 7. Okay. Do I hear a
Second it.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're moving on. Great, thank you, committee members. All right.
Yeah, I really have to run.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for being.
You know, the priorities, I don't see, I mean, I think.
You didn't have any,
Stays the same,
Okay, so that's.
I guess when one is still one, I mean, kind of, the last agenda item kind of was priority one, so that seems to concur with where we're at.
Pat, are we on the next agenda?
We're on agenda item number
Thanks, Paul.
4. Okay, which is revising our PAC priority needs list for presentation to the board. And I've shared with you, it's in the packet, the proposed revised work plan. And first of all, is anything missing?
There's one I would add. It wasn't on our list that we developed in April because we talked about it in June. This is one for Dale. I promised him I would do. And that's, we discussed drafting a proposal, which I think I volunteered to do the first draft of, to the board to work with the appropriate county agencies, whether it's planning department or RCD, on developing a plan for the trees, the median trees. And the background of it was, they come and take them out when they're dying, but they don't put any replacements in. And this was reiterated on Dale's tree walk. But we'd like to work with them on having a plan that when they take them out, because they need to take them out at the end of their life, we are collaborating with them on what kind of trees to replace them with, and, well, A, to replace trees, and B, to replace them with appropriate park trees.
Do we need to replace all the trees?
Not
There's enough
necessarily.
trees here. I don't
That's-
think we need to replace them.
Well, there's a lot of sentiment for it's fine to take out these old, messy trees that are too tall, but make sure we maintain the parkland so that they don't all end up like the Alameda between Isabella and Portola, which is just bare and grass.
Good for a playground.
But they don't have to be as dense as they are, and we were talking 30 to 50-foot tall trees, so that they maintain the original kind of Burnham intent that they're kind of parkland to walk through. So I had volunteered to draft something to bring to PAC to potentially propose to the board to do that, so.
Okay, so we can put that on the list for consideration here. I've written it down, proposal.
Could I suggest combining 1 and 3, just because we've pretty much been combining them?
Well, again, we
Or at
didn't
least
want to
put them
have the picnic tables and benches held up by the discussion of the playgrounds.
How about if you move the benches up above the 385 school?
So they're on the similar time frame. Yeah, they're more, and it was because the benches are on more, or picnic tables are on more than 7 and 8.
Yeah.
But we'd like to
Right.
replace that whole median.
So that's on there. Should we move it up to second position? Or
Yeah, just switch
Owen?
it up.
Your thoughts?
I would actually move everything median related up because with the projects that are, the ball is rolling now, I think we have a lot on our plate. So, you know, taking on anything more just, I think, needs to be considered. Certainly, long-term, you know, that's fine, but more short-term.
Yeah, it's too bad Paul's in here because I know he'd have feedback on the pump track. So we're talking about reversing 2 and 3 at this point.
Even 4 probably belongs up.
So number 2 would be replace benches, picnic tables. Number 3 would be support efforts for Burnham Park. And maybe we can find out what we can do for Burnham Park. We have 2 board members here. What would you, and I'd like to ask either or both, how could the PAC be most helpful on the next steps for the Burnham Park?
I would say, you know, I think the longer event was good, you know, but, you know, I think the next event, I think that should take place is something like an overnight school, something more like the county parks type event where, you know, where it's a smaller time frame and a little bit more focused in terms of kind of having everyone there and
Okay.
kind of following afterwards and how they did it.
So another public outreach event.
Yeah, you know, my comment.
Great.
No, I think that's exactly right. We will have more public outreach. The next steps, the board set up a subcommittee and to meet with Pat and Nancy, if we can find a time, and Steve to talk about next steps for Burnham Park. So at this point, we're not exactly clear, but I think you guys have a lot on your plate of what you're doing. And so I think right now, the next steps for Burnham Park are in the board's sort of court. But when we have we have another public input session, which we're going to have, because that's more complicated, certainly, than the medians even, we'll need your help.
Okay.
And your input.
Okay.
I mean, you guys, your opinions matter a lot. I mean, everybody who's involved, their opinions matter, but as people who have you have important history with this community and background, and have a lot to offer in terms of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I have
So,
a quick suggestion. Did you want to consider removing the completed items or just maybe revising them for a more long-term, you know, focus or something?
which are the completed items?
You have 5, 6, 7.
8,
Oh,
9,
okay.
5, 6, and 7.
I'm looking at the wrong one.
I mean, you may still want to keep those as your priorities, but just on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, so this is what I had, which is changes.
Put them at the bottom, completed, or something.
Oh, yeah, tier numbers are quite different.
Yeah. So I need to do this one. Yeah, so we're just looking at differences in different versions and the older versions.
The version that's in the packet was the one that was given to the board at the last.
At the last meeting, that's why I suggested that we revise this and take care of some of those completed ones, kick them out, and also have some other, you know, discussion. I have examples here, which I can pass around. Maybe in the interest of time.
Photocopy this one?
Yeah, maybe we can do that. So these would be examples of what could be done. Maybe I've got some other copies here. All right, while we're waiting for that, let me look at yours. I think the number 1, develop plans and outreach for neighborhood parks. So we're going to keep that as number 1.
Yep.
And I'm proposing that we can move up the picnic benches, there we go,
The number 2?
to number 2.
And then I think we suggested Burnham for number 3, which is currently number 8.
3 for Burnham. And tree plan for medians, I'm not sure where that will fit in.
I would put that farther down because we do have a lot on our plate, maybe after the Quarry Park Master Plan contract.
Okay. So we're at 3 right now, what would be 4?
4 could either be the trail and amenities plan because we've already written the task list. So it's really sitting, it's one of those things queued up for the board when they have time.
But we're going to be looking at the newsletter, and we're going to be looking at a program, potential recreation program. I'd like to have the potential recreation program and the newsletter high up there.
Yeah, I think the newsletter webpage would become, instead of create, it's maintain up-to-date newsletters and maintain up-to-date webpage.
Right. Right. So we can combine the newsletter and the website into one. Trail amenities plan, I need some more feedback on that. Are we ready to also add that to our plate?
Well, I think that's a really, can I just say, that's a really important part of what we're hoping you do. This is what we had the contract for 2 years ago, and, I see the picnic benches and picnic tables as fitting into that also. So that's more important than, I think, some of these other things.
See, the status of it with the PAC right now is the PAC has reviewed and agreed a task list that is queued up for the board to agree and decide whether they're going to put it out for bid or where they want to put it in terms of timing. But it's kind of, we've done the first step, and now it's kind of at the board whenever they can fit it in their agenda to provide guidance on do they want to move forward with it. We developed a task list for the master trail plan, and so it's one of those things that's queued up when the board has time to get to it. We had developed at first an RFP, and then we said, well, if the staff doesn't want to do RFPs, we'll just narrow it down to the task list. So we have that. We did it at the May meeting, I think.
Yeah, I had asked Pat for that list because I don't have it.
Oh, I have.
And then that way I can, present it to the board as soon as we have, I can get it approved.
Okay.
Okay, so...
I would say maybe number 9 should be moved up.
Yeah, number 9 should be moved up. I would like to keep it separate from the picnic tables in case, we're looking at a year-long project for number 9, at least, with public meetings and everything else. It's going to involve tree maintenance plan. Can't get around it, and I would just like to see some benches and picnic tables. So I don't want to combine those two. The summer recreation programs, I have some to share, ideas to share with you tonight. That has to be done by January 1, or else we're going to be in the same old situation we're in this year, which is not enough time to get it promoted. So I think that's a high priority for me. Cabrillo Unified School District, for some of the board members, that's a very high on their priority list, but that's a very long-term project.
Yeah, but we need to get started on it soon instead of waiting till next spring again when they're too busy to bother, so it should probably be in the next couple of months. We should be making a proposal to them.
Yes, it's important.
I would say, Pat, with the numbers that you have, I would move the trail amenities plan up simply because it's halfway there, and if the board says put that off till next year, we can move it down.
How about making that number 6?
Did you, now I've lost track of the numbers, but.
Yeah, do
So
the numbers again.
1 is still the same. 2 is replace benches. 3 is support efforts for Burnham Park.
Yep,
4 is advocate for pump track.
okay.
5 would be write brochure and promote summer 2019 recreation program. 6 would be develop a trail and amenities plan for El Granada Indians. Let's see, that's...
And then I leave Cabrillo where it is. That's, it would be
Yes, that's
7.
7. And then combine 7 and 8 into 1. And that would be number 8.
Mhm.
And...
I would reword this, Pat, so that they are maintain current information on Parks and Recreation webpage, which might be like at least a quarterly update. And rather than second recreation-focused GSD
Right.
newsletter, is
Yeah.
just
Update.
contribute to a quarterly e-newsletter,
Good.
a Parks update,
Yeah.
Parks and Rec. PNR
You could
update.
just say ongoing as opposed to second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it more continuous.
And they may be district newsletters if the district has things to add,
Right.
but we would contribute something then to every district newsletter.
Okay. Community center, what is your thinking on that?
I think they said not to, that the board's dealing with that, right?
Yeah, that's my feeling. I mean, if, the board is very much aware of this need, and I don't think there's a lot to be done in the near future, and you've got a lot on your plate. I would just let the board deal with this one.
Well, yeah, I agree, that's out of our hands, but, you know, when you talk about recreation programs, the community center comes up front and center as a need, big need.
I mean,
Yeah, so, okay,
We move it to the bottom.
We could just
then it
keep
doesn't
pushing
go.
it.
just keep pushing it.
I mean, actually, I think
the things that need to be done to make that, the only things that can be done to make that happen right now are being done. And so, you know,
Okay,
it's definitely a priority.
okay, great, good to hear. Small disc golf course, is that a high priority? Should that be on the list?
No, I think that could go with the Cabrillo.
There's a potential for Cabrillo, yeah,
Yeah,
rather than a separate.
the pump track and the Cabrillo, I mean, just,
Lisa
what is it,
Land
golf,
and-
disc golf?
Well, I think that was something though that the community identified that they wanted. And I'm
Right.
afraid if you add it to that, it'll just get,
It'll get lost.
it'll get cut some
Yeah.
time in the future if it doesn't stand on its own.
So you're thinking we should continue to have it in there on the needs list, right?
I mean, yeah, I would think so.
Does anyone feel that explore the locations of small pocket parks in district neighborhoods? We've already been doing that in
Well,
terms
it's
of
places
searching for
like
land.
like the Harbor and North Miramar are just the other two places where if we could be opportunistic.
Mhm.
I don't think there's much we can do except keep our ears open, but if we're opportunistic for a small piece of land that can't be used for anything else, they could be really fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So keep it on.
At the bottom, I guess. Well, yeah, we keep our eyes and ears open, I guess, but
Yeah,
otherwise,
so this would be a work
not much
plan,
you can
kind
do.
of like a work plan for us. So let me try it again here. 1 is the same, approved concepts for 7 and 8, work on that. Number 2, replace benches, picnic tables above BOA. Number 3, support efforts for planning Burnham Park. Number 4, advocate for pump track. I just, an update on that. I contacted the county and quote unquote, they're pushing pump track back in their priority. So I think we need to continue to advocate for that.
Well, they're pushing it back as far as timing-wise?
Timing-wise.
You know what, you mean, the next meeting is being pushed back, or?
In the planning process of when things would be set up and started is being pushed back.
Do you know why they're doing it?
He said they were behind all the way around.
That's what it's looking
So they don't have a master plan done yet.
No.
Well, and I was just gonna add, I mean, that was one of the things I was gonna say is, my impression from them was that they were gonna look to us for the specifics as far as, you know, what we would like to see. You know, obviously, we're the ones that are gonna be footing the bill for some of that, so I think you guys have had a subcommittee in the past, right, for pump track. I think that's a great example of between the subcommittee and some of the people in the community. I know the one meeting at the hotel, there was 6 or 7 people, you know, on the coast that have built a bunch of pump tracks and had some really good specific knowledge. And I think reaching back out to them, whether that's formally with the subcommittee or just kind of informally getting their thoughts to drive some of the specifics over the next couple of months in terms of, I think same thing I was going to say with, you know, at our last meeting, there was consensus on, okay, actually would be a good idea. Everyone on the board seemed to dedicate some sustainable space for a skate park. I think what we didn't talk about is the specifics of that. I think, and that's one of those things that really isn't going to go anywhere unless you guys kind of drive that in terms of reaching out. I think Tim would be an awesome person in terms of kind of tied into you know, kind of just giving some different examples of those specifics and whether you guys, same thing, do a skate park subcommittee or just.
We don't have a pump track subcommittee?
I think you guys did it before when it first, a couple years and a half
Maybe
ago.
before, but.
And so it was
yeah.
disbanded, but, so I was, you know, I would
It's
just
more because
recommend.
the board decided to support it in Quarry Park, so we're just waiting for Quarry Park to say their master plan's done.
Yeah.
So we can help organize
Actually,
people to help them design it.
Sam Hersberg had contacted me last week, and we've been missing each other, but he's anxious to further discussions on the plan.
Oh.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
really wants to meet with the district.
So
Yeah.
I'll
He says
find
that's
out
the
what
next
he,
step.
what he wants, and then maybe we can take
Yeah,
from there.
and so, yeah, and I would just say that was the impression I got from them is basically, you know, they have the power, just like you guys to us, in terms of going to them, they could approve and reject, modify anything, but they do want to see those iterations kind of come from us, and I think that's where, you know, I think getting that subcommittee back, whether those are 2 separate ones or kind of the same, I think, between you guys and reaching out to some of the members in the community that are kind of tied into exactly, you know, what they would like to see and all that. I think that would, so whenever they do formally kind of come to that agreement where they're ready for it, we kind of have different plans
Yeah.
already
So,
vetted.
as
He
far as
laid out the timeline for us.
priority list, did you want to keep it then where it is? We need to get through this.
Yeah, let me try again. We know 1, we know 2, replace benches, we know 3, Burnham Park, we know 4, advocate for a pump track. Number 5, write brochure for 2019. Number 6, develop trail and amenities plan and medians. Number 7, explore lease with Cabrillo Unified. Number 8 is a combination of maintain the webpage and contribute to the recreation-focused newsletter. Number 9, support the district to acquire a community center. Number 10, proposal to work with the county to develop a plan for trees and medians. Number 11, explore potential locations for small frisbee golf, disc golf. And number 12, explore additional locations for small pocket parks.
Sounds good. There's still 12?
We
I
have
thought we're
12.
eliminating the 3 that are completed.
Well, they're distinct. We
I thought of
combine-
another one that isn't even on here,
And that is,
the
yeah.
dog park. Because people have started turning the Quarry Park frontage into a dog park. And really we worked hard this weekend to clean up a lot of it. And that's the entrance to Quarry Park. And it would be nice, once it starts raining, to have that all turn green and be for the families, picnicking and family use. And if people continue to use that as a dog park, it's going to get destroyed. So I'd like to see that on the other side, the dog park put.
So could we phrase that as dog management at Quarry Park?
However,
I would just leave it open and say, you know, make having a dog park somewhere a priority.
on the other side
Yeah,
of
because
the
people
parking
are
lot.
being careful not to say PAC has a position on Quarry Park.
Say what?
the PAC has a position on Quarry Park.
Yeah, just say it, if you want to add that.
Is that in their master plan at all?
Huh?
Is that in their master plan at all?
There
The
is,
dog park?
there
Yes,
is a
it's a good
request for a
park.
dog park.
Yeah.
And people have just started using it, you know, they just
There's
do
a lot
it
of
now.
I
dogs.
think it is in their master plan, and I
Doesn't
think it
hurt
is where Fran wanted to be the last time I saw it.
Yeah.
We just want them to get done with their
Get used
master
to,
plan.
The last one didn't have a dog, the last one.
but it is in the
As we
plans.
showed it.
Yes,
It-
definitely in their plans.
Add it.
And I
Okay.
think unless we say something or start talking about it, it's just gonna continue where it is.
So should we phrase it, consider dog park options?
Explore, just go like explore dog park.
What?
Explore dog park options.
Yeah, there's no official dog park in Quarry Park. It's a
Right.
dogs on leash park, but I have two little violators of that rule myself.
All right, so let's vote on this, if you will, as a committee. Someone who else want to read it? Elliot, do you have the list?
Yeah, do we need to go through it again?
Yeah, please.
Okay, we have one, approve concepts and start outreach for small neighborhood playgrounds on medium 7 and 8 as soon as possible. 2, replace benches and picnic tables in the Balboa mediums. 3, support efforts to plan for a Burnham Park and protection of resources in that area. 4, advocate for a pump track to be built in Quarry Park. 5, identify, write brochure and promote a summer 2019 recreation program. 6 is develop a trail and amenities plan for all El Granada medians with priority on median 11. 7, explore lease of land from Cabrillo Unified School District for active and/or passive recreation on the El Granada surplus property. 8 will be maintain the district parks and recreation webpage along with contributing ongoing to the newsletter, GCSD newsletter. 9, support the district to acquire and develop a community center. 10 will be to, I can't read that very well.
Propose to work with the county to develop a
Tree management plan.
Tree management plan for the medians.
Okay, and let's see, so 11 would be to explore potential locations for a small disc golf course. 12, explore additional locations for small parks within district neighborhoods. And 13, explore dog park options.
And I think the dog park thing is happening now, it's gotta be moved up.
But
Okay.
but we're not in charge of Quarry Park.
Oh, that's true.
That's
Well, we
that's
can
my only concern.
recommend it.
I completely agree with you that people should stay on the other side of the road and not.
We need to recommend it,
their
though,
dogs.
I think, we could. We have a voice in it.
You want to be a subcommittee on that?
Sure, I can be at the subcommittee.
Sure. Okay, so it's on there. Where do you propose it to be?
On the post side.
But I mean, in the order,
Oh.
rank order here.
2. I don't know. It's,
It's not.
Should we put it with the pump track, because that's our interaction with Quarry Park master plan?
I think the contract would be separate,
Okay.
as a letter regarding it. all kinds
Oh,
of
that's
things.
true, you're right.
How about if you put it
Make the
after
list.
the community center, and then you can move the disc golf, the
Oh, can
park
you-
of parks, and the trees down? Just moving it up 4 spaces or so.
I'd rather see it up further. Well, I can do it. I know.
So that would make it number 9.
Yeah, yes. So that would be 9, and then 10 would be to support the district regarding the community center. So that
Well,
would
that
be
we don't even really need.
10, 11, well, that was.
That could be down at the bottom.
Are you in agreement with that, everybody? Moving the community center down?
Yeah, I think it could
It's
be
a
off.
long-term goal, but
Okay,
it's
so
very
we'll go
important.
dog park, small, let's see, dog park, the tree plan, the disc golf, pocket parks, and then community at the bottom, community center at the bottom.
No, I don't want community center.
Okay, so put pocket parks at the bottom and have community center.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Very most.
So what number did it become?
Which one? The dog
The dog
park
park.
option would be 9.
Very most of the have a community center and it's a Wi-Fi.
So we have dog park 9. C, the tree plan would be 10. Let's see, the disc golf would be 11.
I think using the community center 11 and disc golf.
I got confused. Okay, we want to
12,
move the dog park up, so
and-
that's 9, then the trees,
Pocket parks is 13.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, somebody want to make a motion on that?
I move that we agree the PAC work plan as Delia has just read it.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you for working on this. That
Okay, I
gives
will
us-
return with a finalized, correct, updated list, and I'll distribute it, and then it will go to our board.
Okay.
All right, number 5 is newsletter. Nancy, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. We, the communication subcommittee of the board had agreed that we would aim to do quarterly e-newsletters, and at the board meeting on August 30th, they agreed to try to get a newsletter out by the end of September. And so to update from our last newsletter, what I've done is just do one section on PAC updates, which is just what we did this evening, pretty much. And another reminder to watch our webpage for ongoing updates. And then took the connection to recreation events and the pictures that I took at most of them. Oh, and I don't know if anybody took a picture of the yoga of the 3 people, but that was the one I didn't have a picture of, so I may put in the picture that we used in the brochure, in the newsletter. And just did a blurb with some pictures about each of them. In this case, I didn't try to format it or decide how many pictures. I thought, Delia, that maybe we would send this to Marty and let her format it and do nice fonts and so on, and then make a PDF out of it that we'd send out with the newsletter. So I just did a little section on each of those with the pictures that I captured. And then a short summary of the Burnham Park public outreach that was covered at the August 30th board meeting. I didn't put in charts, I just summarized that we did public outreach. And from my notes, which I have to type up hopefully tomorrow, but definitely for the board meeting next week, which were the passive amenities and active amenities that the board supported to take forward to next steps. And then noted, as Barbara noted earlier tonight, the next steps are for the 4 of us and Steve to meet to do the next steps for park design and community outreach. So I would propose to put that in a newsletter, and the district may have more things they want to put in it, and also put it on, refresh our website with the same information.
And I've had a chance to look at it. Thank you, Nancy. It looks very good, actually. I really
Very
think it's.
nice.
well
We'll add
done.
a note on the yoga that community members enjoyed a lovely class. Namaste. That's going to be the last line.
Any big things that you would like to add, or something that's missing?
The event coming up, right?
Hmm?
The event coming up.
Yeah, we need to add the
Yeah.
event, yes.
Good idea.
Yes, thank
And then
you.
also, I like the idea we was talking about at the last meeting. It's kind of started joking about it a little bit in terms of a monthly walking group and also picking up trash along the way. I think I think Leonard made it like, oh my God, might as well just grab a bag and pick up trash along the way. But I do like the idea that I think that could kind of slowly kind of be the glue that kind of keeps everything together in terms of, as people come together, hey, next week we got this event coming up and, 3
Yeah.
weeks from now.
We probably need
So-
to talk about it when we talk about the
Yeah.
summer events, but the suggestion was, because the walks were so popular, to do like Barbara's history walk, but with others who can do the history, once a month or once every couple months, so that we get more of a rhythm of community events. But I think we're probably going to need a summer events meeting at the rate we're going tonight.
Yes, yes. I'm just going to pass around quickly and just an idea of some programs that could. These are not anything formal, but I can share that.
Is there another?
No. But these are examples. Maybe the two of you can look at that one.
We do have a separate item to discuss the recreation program, so are you moving?
That's true. Okay, so let's clear up what we've got here. So we're on.
The newsletter and webpage
5.
with minor edits. Shall we move to take that forward to
Yeah.
Right.
the district?
So are we good with number 5? Did you get enough feedback for your newsletter?
I think so.
Yeah, it
So-
looks good as it is. It's just add the Burnham,
The
the
meet- the
Balboa
event notice, yeah.
event.
Right, we had that little events. Okay, item number 6. I think we've heard about that. We've covered that already. So item number 7, we have Tim, you'd like to talk about that, so come on up.
Tim West, Del Granada. Couple of things about the future. I think you guys are doing a great thing. I like that they put this committee together. The community needs it. Historical markers in the area, that's one thing I was thinking about, could be something to look into. They're kind of trashed, they're old school. I kind of like that look they have, like in front of the post office, and then right up there from Avenue Alhambra, or whatever it is, Avenue Portola, right there, yeah. But they're kind of hidden, you know, and if there's anything or new ones you guys can think of that are significant, that'd be pretty cool to put up as a parks district, right? The other thing, fitness stations, like David was saying, I think that's a great idea. I like working out, but I can't work out like I used to. And I'm sure a lot of people in the neighborhood are my age or older. It'd be nice to, you know, do 1 to whatever push-ups you can, and then move to the next one and the next one. I think that could be something really cool, especially on a Sunday morning. I know a lot of people would be interested in that. They even take their dog with them too. The other thing is the skate park area option. I noticed it's not even on a priority list, and you're talking about throwing a Frisbee and the dog park, which is great. I support all of those things, but the little skate park that we had a possibility of the Burnham Strip, I know there was one proposal that had a little tiny area, and I think you all know my history of the skate park, like just kind of organizing the community to get it together and put it there. You know, it was a group thing, but it's become a staple in the community. And personally, I don't want, and I'm sure a lot of people don't want to see a big skate park with a bunch of kids causing ruckus, spray painting everywhere, and you know, it would spread like wildfire. But just have something, maybe even the size of this room, that's just a little concrete bowl, no maintenance, fenced off if you have to, right next to the beach where all the surfers go, kind of, you know, and then whatever the Burnham Strip does, like, you know, rolling hills with a nice walking trail, that's great. I suggested the restroom, which probably isn't going to happen from what I hear, but
It made the list.
that would be great.
Actually, at the board meeting on August 30th, we had a lot of discussion because the skate park was the #1 thing on the comments that, like, you know, either leave it or keep it, but make sure you can move it, but make sure we keep it. And it's actually on the Caltrans easement now. It's not on the Burnham property. And ultimately, where the board got to, from my memory of my notes, is to ask Kikuchi and Kenkel to look for a place actually to locate in the park, a small one, but maybe the ones where, like they mentioned Pacifica, where it's the bowl
Yeah.
goes down, so it's not blocking the view, but it's maybe, you know, something more permanent and actually in the park and shows the community supporting the skate
I'm
community.
sorry to interrupt, but I just want to remind you, we're talking about recreation programs right now. That is the agenda.
Oh.
Just so you know.
Future recreation programs.
Right.
Oh, I thought it was,
That's okay.
No, you're fine.
so yeah, future projects that you guys are going to do. That's, I'll leave it at that because it is kind of off
It
subject.
is kind of.
So that's what I have for you guys, and I just wanted to give my input and good job on what you're doing.
Thanks, Tim.
And
Thank
did
you.
you,
Thanks.
did
Thanks
you
for
say
coming.
the size of this room is a small one?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you seen the one in Half Moon Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, so given the hour, it's probably a little bit difficult, but, you know, looking at that potential list, we can't go through everything, but I thought this would be a starting point for us. Where I generated that was I've been collaborating with Half Moon Bay, the City of Pacifica Parks and Recreation.
Can I get a copy of that?
Yeah, I will give it to you. And
Oh, thanks.
this was,
We're doing this?
yeah, these were in general programs that there's more demand than what they could satisfy. Not all of them. They don't do anything, there's others that are, let me share this with you. There's others that are partnerships, like guided hikes in Spanish at Rancho Corral del Tierra. They want to do that so bad, and it's a great need in this community and elsewhere on the coast. So we can partner with them,
Who is, who?
with Golden Gate National Recreation Area
Oh,
in Rancho, which actually borders the district. Zumba Gold, a lot of these bingo for seniors or cards, those are super popular in all the communities. And if we could find a space, there's that community center again.
What is it exactly?
Zumba is a fitness program, a low
Oh,
impact fitness
okay.
program. Ballroom dancing was they had fantastic luck with that, they sell out. So tried to get some ideas for adult programs, senior programs, family programs, an acoustic concert in the New Burnham Park or in Quarry Park. So acoustic, so it's minimal noise. Movies in the park, how many years have people on the coast side been asking for a movie theater? So this would certainly not be a movie theater, but maybe that's an option.
They do it.
The county
They
does
do it,
that.
the county does it in Quarry Park
Okay.
in August every year.
Friday
Great.
night.
One time on Friday night?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think they did a couple of times last year, I don't know.
Okay. So those are ideas. Youth programs,
Up on the quarry floors, it's great acoustics up there.
oh, up high.
Yeah, on the quarry floor.
Oh, right, okay. I know what you're saying.
There was quite a bit of
We
work
used to do
support
that.
for the program, so I don't know where you want to take this as far as just going forward with it and.
This is just a starting point. What we need to do is, I would suggest that as a committee, we look at this, consider if there's anything missing, and identify programs we think would be great at the next meeting. And then start, that's October. I would
We
guess.
actually have no meeting
I know,
scheduled after
I know.
this, so that's.
Until
gonna-
December.
I'm going to suggest
Yeah.
October, but we're going to have to be meeting more frequently.
Yeah, well, that's going to be
All
the
that we're
last
doing.
item, is to schedule some meetings.
So, anyway, I see this as a starting point for discussions. I'm also communicating with Wilkinson School, who has a pretty extensive kids program. We don't want to duplicate them, but we could potentially partner with them. So I think partnerships, since we have very few facilities to offer, we have very few park spaces to offer at this point in time, that partnerships are the only way that we can really move forward in a lot of these cases. So for instance, cetacean seals and science, that would be in collaboration with Fitzgerald Marine Preserve docents. They want to do it. I'm willing to help organize that with more time than we had last year. So that, this would be just an initial presentation of ideas.
Does Wilkinson School have a great room
They have a room, they have arts and crafts room.
where you could do like Zumba or ballroom dancing?
I
Well,
think
their
this
big
is one
auditorium,
of
that big round building where they've held. big
Yeah,
meetings.
El Granada has a community room in El Granada School.
Right,
It's a-
we have
it's
to
a
rent
possible-
that, and so we're taking a risk,
getting bumped.
Not getting bumped, we have to
Pay for it.
establish a contract, pay them.
Yeah, it's expensive to rent any of
It's
their
been a
rooms.
while.
I would
It was
quit
only-
meeting there.
It's like 300,
Huh?
I want to say 300, I don't know, it's been
It's
a while.
expensive.
It's a
It's not-
substantial.
It's not that bad.
This room, I don't want to suggest that this is going to be the solving everything, but for smaller classes, this would work. And it's something that we control and we manage. So it's not a done deal at all. These are just ideas, suggestions, and if everybody looks at them and we spend a little more time, I would say the next meeting, the two big agenda items would be the public meeting, organizing that, and putting together, getting closer on the rec program for 2019. I see those as, we gotta keep moving forward. What do you think?
I think it's a lot.
It's a lot, yes, it's a lot.
So when do you want to meet again? In October?
I think we learned from this one that the events that we did that came out within a month of the newsletter had 10 to 15 people at them. And then we had a gap, and then the ones that had registration and that were later in the summer had 1 to
Fewer.
5 people at them. So I think we learned we not only need the promotion early, but through the summer, we need the promotion often.
Promotion was the big lesson, wasn't it? Yeah, lesson learned. So that's why I'm really firm about having it all tied up by January 1. And, some of these require contractors, so we don't have staff to do some of these programs like that. A week-long camp would require staff. So we could contract out with organizations that are listed there. They do these things, like the dance instructor is a contract, the movie video, the youth video production camp is a contract.
Are these things that you pay for, though, they're not going to be free, like?
Right.
So maybe the
Some of them would be
surfing, there's a
paid.
surfing program I know that
Mhm.
you might be able to add to.
Yeah, surf
Right,
camp.
Right. So that would be an example, one that's missing there that would certainly be easy to do.
So the other thing then that we'd have to sort out is, that was the one thing that the short time we had this year, we couldn't figure out how to do, was the process for collecting fees, managing that. When you collect fees, you also have to manage refunds.
And we do not have the staff to do that. There's absolutely no way we can take on anything like additional like
Yeah.
that. I am so far behind right now, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So we'd have to, then the alternative is the vendors manage that.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do, like I know my experience with dealing with City of Apple Bay, I dealt directly with the
Yeah.
vendor.
That's-
As far as he was the one tracking payments, collections.
And that was better for you? That worked much better?
It worked great for me, I don't know if that's, I'm sure it varies depending on it, but I know that
It definitely lessen the load on us. If
Yeah.
basically what we become is a portal for local people to get local programs.
And we can do that.
Directly with the
advertising. Yeah,
vendors.
Yeah, we can get the word out.
And some of them will be free, like they were this year, and may not require reservations, and you can certainly promote those.
It'd probably be worthwhile for anybody who's going to, your members want to continue to provide something, is to go ahead and get the sheriff fingerprint things. I don't know that
Mhm.
anybody actually went
Right.
forward with that, but if there's children involved, you want to go ahead.
Yeah, child protection laws and all that.
Do we have a goal of having a catalog also? Is that something that is?
That would be the guide, yeah.
The guide, right?
The guide, yeah, summer guide. And that would be January 1.
Okay.
The Halfwing Bay Guide is a blend of things that are offered at the community center, at the Ted Adcock Center, and advertisements for things where you contract directly with them, dance classes and
Right.
various things. So-
Right. But they typically provide the facility.
Right, at the community center, yeah.
Yeah,
So Pat, we'll have this be a future PAC agenda item.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely. Okay, so I wrote down, surfing was missing, have vendors take reservations directly, how to do that, child protection, regulations. Okay. Many members, if you have anything, any other ideas, when you think about it, let me know.
Okay. Maybe we need some copies of that.
Yeah, and I will do that. We can do that tonight when we go.
Delia, can you make copies? You don't have to do it right now, before we leave.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
So we've, real quickly, do you want to say something about Chlorine Park, item 8?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, cleanup. And I want to thank Glenn Erickson showed up and he worked really hard. So thank you, Glenn, for helping. And we cleaned, we did almost a dozen. I brought my green waste container, those big things, and we filled it almost a dozen times.
Wow.
And took from just around the big tree on the corner of Santa Maria and Columbus, just clearing all the stuff that was under there so that hopefully, if it does rain this year, it'll turn green also. Because it's never been able to be green because of all the bark and the limbs and the stuff that's on the ground there.
Did you
So-
say you
and
filled
they
it
took
12
the-
times?
Hmm?
Did you say you filled it 12 times?
Yeah, 10, I think he's counted 10 times, but somewhere between 10 and 12. And they dumped it, and I got a ranger, came up, Pat was there at the beginning, and Len and I stayed till 12:30, so we did a good 2.5 hours worth of work, raking up everything, and they took the container and dumped it up on the trail for, mulch, to make mulch on the trail. So that's where it all wound up. So,
Minimize
yeah,
erosion.
that was quite an event, okay? That's all, but it worked out well.
All right. Let's move on to the last item scheduled for the next PAC meeting.
Just so you know, I provided a calendar where I have started with September, went through, moved down to December, and then I also included the first 4 months of 2019. And I X'd out the dates that our meeting room here is not available. The blue is our board meetings, and the red ones are holidays when the office is closed. And then behind that, I provided the whole calendar year for 2019. I didn't know how far in advance you want to look at the calendar, but this would be a good time to try and schedule your next meeting or next couple of meetings.
Well, we certainly, the question is, do we need one in the remainder of September, like to look at the public meetings?
I could do it via email and send out an email to everyone and see.
Yeah, let's just see, what the for, I agree with you, that would be the way to do it,
Okay.
but, get a sense.
Maybe
Do you
target for a
feel like
month?
we need to do something on, like, the 25th to get us moving along, especially on the public meeting?
I'm sorry.
The 25th of September, which is a Tuesday, and remember, we have our event supposedly on the 20th of October. That only gives us 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks. So the 25th is out.
And remember, for Paul, Mondays are better than Tuesdays.
Yeah, I
Oh,
have
you
a
have a night
class now
class?
that I teach on Monday nights at 6:30. Maybe I could get here for 7:30, but I couldn't get here for 7.
We can do it at 7:30.
We could do it at 7:30 on the 24th.
And would it be a short meeting just to discuss the planning?
Just plan for the public outreach.
Yeah, well, that would work.
Yeah, I can, sorry, my husband's in the hospital till like Thursday that week, so
Oh,
I can't
really?
really plan for anything that week.
So that week is not a good week for you.
Right. The 17th to the 27th is not a good week.
What about the second?
How about the
Yeah.
first
So
week?
the
October
first,
2nd?
it looks like there's a co-side Dems here.
Yeah, why is it crossed out? What does that mean?
Monday the 1st is crossed out. but the
Meeting
second-
room unavailable.
Yeah, there's a meeting booked for that evening.
Second I could do, October 2nd.
The second I could do.
So we're back to Tuesday.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
right.
Yeah, I guess I can.
Okay, so
Paula, are you
That sounds
potentially
good.
open for that?
So I'll send around an email to confirm a special meeting set up for Tuesday, October 2nd.
Sounds good.
Delia, you don't have it on here, but I have on my calendar December, when we scheduled quarterly meetings, I have December 10th.
Somehow it dropped off. I'd have to go back, and so you may be right. I'm not sure. Would that be the only one, though, that?
Yeah, we scheduled each quarter, so
Okay.
that's not on the calendar.
Was it on the 10th, you said?
On December 10th.
Okay.
So
So,
what is it?
a
It was
pack.
like, we scheduled quarterly PAC meetings through the end of the year.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
that's
about
kind of
that.
blown out by all the need we have at this
Yeah.
point. So we're talking about October 2nd, next meeting, and I would like to throw out, I don't know, there was a problem with the 16th, wasn't there? That's not available. 15th, not available. 17th is available. We need to do something right before the meeting.
Well, if we,
The public event is on the 20th, so we need to be during
Or
that
isn't
week.
the 2nd enough?
The
Do we
next,
need to meet
yeah.
twice?
I think
Yeah,
if-
I think so.
I mean, we planned the Burnham thing in about 30 minutes.
I know,
So
I don't think you need to do much.
So I think if at the second, we
Yes.
identify who's going to do
Yeah.
what, then
And Steve will be there doing it.
we can pull it together.
Yeah. I don't think we need.
I mean, the
need to
main
meet
thing is to
twice.
get the comment form done,
So
that we know how we want comments to come in, but other than that, it was who's bringing the tents, who's bringing
Did
tables.
Barbara do the last comment?
Either she did or you did, but I have the format,
It's
so.
mostly her, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to maybe work on that a little bit.
Yeah, we can just take that one and modify it a little bit. But that way, but doing it on the second, then we can go straight to, publicizing it.
Right, we could have the flyers out to the neighborhood in 2 weeks and give
And
everybody 2 weeks.
I just want to
notice.
mention that on October 18th at the regular Board of Directors meeting, there should hopefully be an appointment for the vacancy on the committee.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, so I think we have a plan, October 2nd, 7 o'clock.
Or 7:30.
On the 2nd, I can go at 7 o'clock, so let's try 7 p.m., October 2nd. All right. We good, everyone?
Yep.
Okay, we are.